Hello everyone, hello and welcome to my Python lesson series. This is my first video on Python, and here we will be learning Python from the basics to somewhat advanced level at a rapid pace, and I will do my best to keep up. So let's start with the Python installation where many people get stuck. It is simple, but if you are new and have no idea, you may run into trouble. I face the same problem as well. If you don't install it properly, there might be chances of missing modules or Python not working properly. And at the end of this video, I will talk about what types of projects we'll do and how will I make videos, so stay tuned. So let's begin with the installation of Python. This is an official website of Python where you can download latest version of Python setup. Now click on download Python and wait for the installation to complete. Okay, after you install it, open this and click on add to Python and click on customize installation. By the way, this is the most important thing. You shouldn't avoid it. If you avoid this, it's not going to work properly. Click on next. Click on install for all users. Now click on install and wait for the installation to complete. Okay, now it has been installed successfully. Now you can close the window. Okay, now let's install Visual Studio Code for writing and compiling the code. So first go to Google and click download Visual Studio Code and click on the first website. And if you are using Windows, click on the Windows, or Mac, click on Mac. If you're using Ubuntu or any Linux, you can click on this. So currently I'm using Windows. I'll be clicking on this and click on save. So after installation of Visual Studio Code setup, so now open the setup and click on I accept the agreement. Click on next. Click on create a desktop icon. So I recommend you click on these two, add open with code, so you don't have to navigate through Visual Studio Code, and it will be easier for you to navigate through the folder to Visual Studio Code. Click on next and click install. I've already installed, so I'm not going to install it again. Okay, now let's proceed to our main task. Okay, we're fully ready to code in Python, and the first thing we have to do is to create a folder and name it whatever you like. So I'll name it PyTutorial. Now launch Visual Studio Code. Click on open folder and navigate to that path. If you had checked open with code during installation of Visual Studio Code, you can just right click inside the box and click on open with code, which will be more easier than to navigate through Visual Studio Code. Now create a file name and at the end put .py, which means Python extension. So in my case, I'm naming it first.py because it's my first video on Python. So let's write our first Python file and print hello world on terminal. So in order to print something on terminal, we use the print function. And inside the print function, we use quotation mark to print any written text or document. And the process to print hello world on terminal is to first use print function, and inside the quotation, we will write hello world. And now let's run the file. You can use this run button or just type Python your file name.py. So in my case it's first, so I can type Python first.py, and you can see that it is printing what we have given in the print function. By the way, if you are directly using terminal to execute the file like this, it is important to save the file first. So in order to save the file, you can just press Ctrl and S. So the next thing we'll learn about what is integer and what is string for now, but in future video we'll be learning more text-based datas. So I think you may have idea what integer is because it is also a mathematical term. An integer is a variable that consists of numerical values like 1, 2, 3, whereas a string contains characters and also a combination of characters as well as numbers. For example, my name, which only has characters, and as well as someone's Instagram's username, which contains both characters and numbers. So being said that, before using those terms, let's make a program which takes input from the user and print it on the terminal. So in order to use the input we get from the user, we have to assign a variable. For example, I will be assigning a name to use the input provided by the user. To take input, we use input function, and also we can print text inside input function. Basically, while taking input, you have to specify what kind of input you want from the users. In many programming languages, you have to print messages to specify what kind of input you want, like on C programming, and then only you can take the input. But in case of Python, you can print messages inside input function, and the structure for this code is same as print function. So in order to take input, we use input function, and inside the input function we can specify the message what you want from the user. So in my case, let's type enter your name. So now let's run this file. Okay. Let me comment this out first. So you can use hash to comment this out so it will not be executed. So let's run this file. And as you can see, it's asking for input. Let's type my name. So it takes input from user but doesn't say anything. So in order to print the input that we got from the user, we use print function as well. So in this case, we use print function but will not use quotation inside print function. So what happens if we use quotation? So let's check this. So in this case, it will print name, not the value inside the name. But if I remove the quotation and run this file again, now it will show the value inside the name variable. Okay, this was the third example on input. Now let's use string and integer to take input, and let's comment this out first. At first, if you use integer, you can only get numerical value. That's what happened if you use int function, which means integer inside a non-numerical value. Int, and let's type some characters, and run this file. It will show an error. Now if we want to take only numerical value from user, you can use int function, and we can use it with input function as well. So logical thinking, we take input from the user first and then only check whether it's a numerical value or not. So here we can just first let's make a variable called age, and let's use input function to get input from the user. So logical thinking, we take input from the user first and check whether it's numerical value or not. Here we can wrap input function inside int function. You have to be careful in this case because sometimes you might forget to close the bracket. Okay, let's execute this file. Now you can see it's asking for the input. So what happens if we use non-numerical values inside the age? So let's type some characters. So you can see it's showing an error. It means user can only use numerical values inside this function. So let's rerun this again. And let's type numerical value inside. As you can see, it's not showing an error. So let's print this input as well. Let's rerun this. And it's showing input as well. Okay, now let's make a program which takes name and is as input from user and print showing username is this and age is this. First, let's clean this out. And now let's make a variable called name, and let's use input function to take input from the user. Another variable called age, and in this case we have to use int function, so user can only use numerical value and cannot use characters inside this input. So in this case we have to print both assigned value and characters like we did using quotation. So in this case we will use print. Inside print you'll use f. So f means format, and inside it we can print our value using curly brackets and as well as message. So in my case I will write user name is. So as I had said that we use curly brackets to get the input, to print out the input. So inside curly bracket I will use name. So it will not print just the letter name. So another is and the is. So again curly bracket, and inside curly bracket we will use is. So let's run this file. So you can see we were able to print both message as well as input. It has printed username is Rizal and the age is 18. Okay, now let's discuss about the data type str, also known as string. This is the data type that can be represented as any data type. This means we can use str function to take any input, including integers and other data types like float and boolean, which we will discuss later. So now let's use str function. Okay, here I'm gonna replace int into str. Now let's run this file. At first we will use numerical value, and you can see it's working and not showing any types of error. So let me rerun this file again. And this time I will type 18, but not in the form of digits. I will use letters, ENGHTEEN, and it's not showing any type of errors. So that is a brief explanation on str, data type and function. Okay, now let's go into the next method, and for this one we will use if and else statements in our program. The most crucial factor when using if and else statement is the condition we supply. So if the condition is true, the code within the if statement will be executed, and if the condition is false, the else statement will be executed. Let me clear this up. So what I'm gonna do is I'll write a code asking for name, and if the name is Rizal, then it will print out I know you, and if name is besides Rizal, it will say sorry, I don't know you. Okay, at first I will make a variable called name, asking for input, saying what is your name. And now it's the time we use if and else statement. So the structure will be if and then condition. So in my case, it will be name equals to in quotation and result. So if you're wondering why I'm using double equals to, because here we are checking if the name is result or not. We're not assigning the value like on this name variable. So whatever we provide input to this name variable, it will be assigned to the name variable. And now after finishing the condition, we will use colon, and it is important. And after putting colon, whatever we want to execute, if the condition is true, we should use indentation. You can use tab also to create an indent, or if you're using VS Code, it will automatically gives you indentation. So now I will use print function to print I know you. So after finishing what you want to execute, then we will write else, but outside the indentation of if statement. And it should be on the same vertical position to if, and same goes for else, as whatever we want to execute, if the condition is false, we'll write by giving indentation inside else statement. So in my case, I will type print sorry, I don't know you. Okay, now let's run this file and check. So I will type my name. So the condition being true, it has executed the code inside the if statement, saying print, saying I know you. Okay, now let's rerun this file again. And this time I'm gonna use any random name. Since the condition on if statement is false, which means the name is not Shrizzle, it has executed the code inside else statement saying sorry, I don't know you. And if you have more conditions like this, you can use elif, which means else if. Okay, let me explain to you. It will be the same as using if, just the difference is we use elif instead of if. Now I'm gonna show you how it works. For this, I'm gonna add one more condition, saying else if, and then the condition else if name equals to Srizan. It will print out I have heard about you, but I don't know you. You know, let's run this file and test. So I'm gonna type Srizan. And you can see elif statement being true. It has executed the code inside elif condition, saying I've heard about you but I don't know you. And like this, you can add thousands of conditions on your program. By the way, I haven't used AND and OR logic. We will also talk about this on further videos. And I'm not using complicated things like mathematical equations or logic, as I want to provide basic concepts on how it works. And it's important to know concepts, and after knowing its concept, it's not a big deal to work on your own thought and use mathematical equations inside your program. And I think this much for the first part of the video, and about my plans and how I'm gonna make further videos. So my first priority is to provide concepts on how things works on Python, so you can start your own project with ease. And in further videos, I will also include videos about APIs and some ethical hacking related stuff, that is SSL unpinning. And we will also do a project regarding Instagram, where we will be looking at how Instagram's algorithm works, and we'll make a bot which tracks someone's Instagram's post, and we can use it on any other platform. And I think I will continue this video, and also I'll make a video on function on the second part, where I will be explaining how this function, like print function, works, and I will also teach you how to make your own function. And it is one of the most important part while learning Python, because there are thousands of inbuilt functions in Python, By providing that concept, I think you'll be able to use those functions easily. And later on, I will also make a video on class and objects, which is also one of the most important concepts to grab on. And if you learn class and objects, you can work on any other documentation, for example, making bots on Discord. And being said that, thank you so much for watching. And if you have any feedback or any queries, feel free to comment. And I will see you on my next video.